Good morning, dear friends. You can hear me? Yes? What an amazing thing, isn't it? From here to there, in a blink of an eye. Well, it's happened again. The sun line, which travels across the world at this latitude at something like 950 miles an hour. The sun line has come from the east and past us. It's been dawn for some time. We woke up, did our morning ablutions and rituals, and then we found our way to here, to this gathering spot. How we all fit into this little tent, I don't know, but here we are. Hello to those of you joining us on YouTube and Facebook. I hope the broadcast is good for you today. It's Monday morning and the big construction equipment is about 50 yards, maybe a little more. No, about 50 yards. They're building 14 houses. They took down a whole swath of trees to build these houses just over there. The one positive side is that we have more sun in the afternoon and evening now. We still have a layer of trees, but we get a little more sun. Change. So I have a very favorite reading this morning. This is, I think, the founding document of the Portland Insight Meditation Community. And I would guess that I've read this more times than any other text. It's from that great saint of the 20th century, Mr. Rogers. A friend of mine visited a beautiful monastery where a dozen monks, most of whom were in their 70s and 80s, were living. This is a place where once 60 to 70 men spent their entire lives studying and following a rule of very strict living, praying together 7 times a day, 7 days a week. They worked hard and they were very successful. My friend asked one of the monks why he felt that over the years the community had dwindled from 60 to 12. His reply was, "We did everything right. And somewhere in all that successful praying and work and living, we lost the most important thing of all. The thing that was so contagious and attracted people to us. We lost the naked love. Little by little, the success replaced the love. Oh, sure, you can have love and success, but the love has to remain first, always first. Natural, affirming, inclusive, naked love. Love and success, always in that order. It's that simple, and it's that difficult." So one of the things to say about our gathering like this is that we come together to be in love with each other, to meet in love, to turn toward our own being. And there's that attitudinal phrase I use every now and then: I aspire to love myself exactly as I am in this moment. Which means to have a consciousness big enough to accept the reality of who and what I am in each moment. And one of our supports in that is the refuges. see if I can do this without getting completely caught up in my microphone this morning. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. Oh, sure, you can have love and success, but the love has to remain first. Always first. So let us sit with an aspiration of love. And this is, if we were to translate it, this is the agape love of the Catholics. It's the complete, enveloping love which accepts everything. I will this morning be, I can see, accepting the disliking of a very large diesel motor and a backing up construction truck. And why would it matter, really? It's just sounds. I guess it's also sounds that carry a sankhara weight, a weight of meaning, which is they took down the trees to do this. On the other hand, the mind says, well, people do need homes. So to simplify all that, why not a moment of gratitude? Another day of sunshine, it looks like. Another day when there's plenty of food in the fridge. Another day when my children are relatively safe. For what might you cultivate a little gratitude? For this breath, perhaps? for lungs that have not been attacked by COVID-19. And now, acknowledging the presence of the body, it's so alive. And within this context of the body, there is breathing. So let us use in-breathing and out-breathing for stabilization, for concentration. And with that, let us observe everything else that happens, inside and outside. Something very mysterious happens in every moment of awareness. There's breathing in and there's breathing out, and there's knowing it. There is consciousness of it. There is mindfulness in that consciousness. Sometimes awareness is so acute that just as a thought begins to think itself, it's noticed and vanishes. Other times a thought gathers some momentum and enlists other thoughts and perhaps some emotion, and the process of mental proliferation happens. But the same mysterious miracle happens there. Awareness notices. How does that happen? It's not something that I do. It does seem to be something that can be strengthened through practice, however. And so we sit, witnessing that which occurs. There are strategies we can enlist that sometimes help with concentration. We could count with the breaths. On the in-breath is 1, on the out-breath 2, and so on up to 10, and then beginning back at 1 again. If you lose track, you simply start at 1. The purpose of this is not to create tension and competition, but simply to create a little reminder to stay with the breath. Another way is the noting practice from the Mahasi Sayadaw in Burma, Rangoon. On the in-breath, if you're using the chest and abdomen, rising, rising. falling, falling, describing the phenomenon of the moment. If the mind wanders, wandering, wandering, returning, returning, rising, rising, falling, falling. This lends itself to doing dishes, mindfully reaching, bringing, placing, or driving. You can do seeing, seeing, hearing, hearing, seeing, hearing, sitting, touching. If you're using the sensations at the nostril as your home base, you could do in, out, out. If you have a mind that worries a lot, you could create a special note for worrying. Simply worry, worry, back to the breath. The same for judging or fear. The same is also true should the mind fall into great ease, lovely concentration, bliss, to notice where in the body those sensations are and to name them, or to name the 5 hindrances. These are strategies to assist the miracle of awareness as it does its work of loving everything. Stephen Levine used to say, "This is the practice of embracing the healing you took birth for." How to embrace the present moment? Well, it's like this. It is exactly like it is right now. How intimate dare we let ourselves be with life? How intimate can you be with the experience of breathing? Intimacy involves truly paying attention. Noticing the very beginning of the breath. When it comes out of no-thingness, it doesn't exist and then it does. Perhaps in this moment it's possible for us to realize everything that is perceived exists in that consciousness. The touch of your hands, for instance. Where is it that you know that touch? Is it somehow down there? As though you were a little being sitting behind your eyes? Or is it simply here? We have an experience of proprioception where we notice, we can imagine, we can know the distance between the right index finger and the left foot. But are they experienced in different places, or do they exist in one consciousness? The face, the eyes, thoughts. Are thoughts somewhere out there, or do they arise always in that which knows? Worries, fears, desires, dislikings. Vipassana meditation clarifies that all of these are objects, and there's something else, the subject. That which knows. And while we practice, it becomes more and more apparent all subjects, all objects come and go. And so we rest back into the beauty of our being, into the mystery of this present moment. If you know something that you are going to do today, some activity, driving the car, cleaning the sink, why not now imagine yourself doing it completely awake, completely mindful? Why not imagine when you get up from this spot doing it really with awareness? You don't have to go slowly, but with awareness. Transferring this formal practice into the practice of daily life. And leaving nothing out. And now, please bring awareness into the eyes, into the fact of eyes, the experience of sensation of eyes. And of course, we don't experience eyes, we experience sensations. And now, really observing the intention to open the eyes, notice what's required. It's an effort of will, isn't it, to open the eyes. Opening the eyes, seeing objects. In this case, familiar objects that have names for me and history sometimes. Taking note of the state of being, the state of mind right now. Is it more or less relaxed, at ease? Is the stress level down or up? Often when we've been gathered in the Dharma hall and I ask that question, I say, do you feel saner and more relaxed than when you walked in? And it's 95%. Let's say saner. This is a humongous intervention. To take this time to actually touch into our true nature, to inhabit the space in which everything occurs, changes everything. For unknown reasons, never know the reasons, I had a very shallow night of sleep. Maybe excessive exertion. I'm putting in a couple of raised beds and really pushed it yesterday. But whatever the case, there was lots of wakefulness. Not much resistance to wakefulness, just awake and present, and mostly a very quiet mind. And then I got up, I was up 5-ish, sat for a while. And there was that experience of fatigue, tired, and disliking. But the longer I sat with it, the more I realized that it's as though there's emotional weather and there's thoughts, there's this sphere in a way, that's the wrong word. There are these experiences which can be pleasant or unpleasant, which can be fleeting or longer duration, but they're all the show. They're all, this is what's happening. And the doorway to suffering about it and not suffering about it was very clear. That if there's resistance to it, then there's suffering. Or if there's acceptance, it's, well, this is what's happening. It may not be pleasant, it may be pleasurable, but it's just what is. So it was a strengthening of the understanding that the present moment is exactly like it is, and there's no way to change it. We can change the next one somewhat. We can influence the next one. But this is how it is in this moment, and it's such a relief to accept it and to love it. So that's what I have to say this morning. I want to open up to you and to see what there is to share in the community this morning. So if you're ready, or when you're ready, just unmute yourself, please, and speak.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Susanna, I can even see you.
Hi. Good morning. Well, first of all, I just want to say good morning to you and to the entire Sangha. I just joined this group I think this is my 4th time in this group, and It already means so much to me. And I agree with something that someone said last week, that it's so nice to see people's faces when they talk. So I get to feeling that I'm getting to know people individually. And so that's kind of what's stimulating me to speak right now as well. I just want people to get to know me too. Here I am. So,
We
yeah,
see you.
Sorry?
We see you.
Thank you. I see you too. Yeah, I had a similar experience this morning. I was really tired yesterday. I work as a Spanish English telephonic interpreter, and
Oh.
they were needing extra work yesterday. There's so much more work now, a lot of coronavirus cases that I'm interpreting for.
Whoa.
Yeah, and so I was on the phone yesterday. So this morning I woke up tired and cranky, and I was thinking, oh, I'm not going to log into the meditation this morning. I'm just going to stay in bed. And I'm glad I didn't, because I do feel I feel happier and more peaceful right now, and that I'm off to a better start in my day. Instead of being tired and cranky in the morning, I feel happier and open to the day instead of being resistant. So I want to thank you for that. So I want to thank you. Say hello to everybody.
Thank you, Susanna. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
Morning, Robert and Sangha. This is Peter from the Couve.
Hey, Peter.
Hey, I want to thank you again for doing this. It's wonderful sense of community and practice. And I was picking up on a conversation thread from last week about the habit of hurrying.
Yeah.
Even though things are a little bit slower, there's still that. And I have a recollection when I was a young blade in the 1960s, there was a cartoon called Ricochet Rabbit. And he would say bing, 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 and he would just bounce off different objects. And I feel like Ricochet Rabbit sometimes. And share a little from, I've been reading the Thich Nhat Hanh Daily Reader, and a practice that seems to be helping, if you don't mind me sharing a passage from this. So suppose you have the habit of getting into a hurried state while doing such things as shopping or cooking. With mindfulness, you recognize that you are rushing around and knocking things over like Ricochet Rabbit. He didn't put that in there, I did. That's my addition. Trying to finish quickly. Then you realize that the energy of being in a hurry has manifested itself. So you breathe in and out mindfully, and you say, my dear habit energy, here you are again. And then that tends to dissipate that habit energy just by naming it, and allows a different choice to come, to not be so hurried. So that's what I've been practicing.
Thank you. Ricochet Rabbit.
Bing, bing, bing.
I know him. Thanks, Peter.
Hi, Robert and Sangha. It's Alicia.
Hello, Alicia. Hi.
Hi. So I actually just wanted to build on what Peter was saying about hurrying. One of the things that I've noticed, even though I actually have significantly more time on my hands, partly because of this COVID-19, but also I'm actually taking a little bit of a sabbatical right now. So, but what I notice is that I have, just this kind of time anxiety that will set in, and the feeling of sort of time ticking down, and it's clearly my relationship to time itself is problematic, and I'm trying to find a way to work with that. I do sort of take it inside and try to experience, what I'm feeling. But I don't know, I feel as though there is some way that I can reframe that for myself that could be helpful. And I haven't found that yet. So if you have any thoughts, that would be great.
Well, there's an ancient practice which we do on retreats where we actually intentionally slow down. And so on the retreat, it's from dawn till dusk. If you're walking somewhere, walk mindfully. There's I don't know if it's in the canon, but an apocryphal saying of two monks who are on their way. They live at some significant distance from the village, and they're on their way in to gather their one meal for a day, and they're just on the outskirts of the village. And one monk says to the other, "Oh, I just lost my mindfulness. I have to go back and start over." It's like, but but that's something that I do, and mostly it's just being aware of it. There's this holding my breath and a sense of, there's just a sense of not enough time. So to simply notice that clearly, and then pause, take a deep breath, let the physiology relax, and then start again at a sensible pace. That's the most powerful thing that I know about it. And one thing that's become clear to me and true for me, that I used to hear as Dharma topic, which is there is no such thing as time. Time truly doesn't exist. It's a concept, and I've watched us kind of beat it into our children. Hurry up! I have to leave in 5 minutes, and and they're just living in no time. They're just living, being themselves, and so we inculcate it into them. You have to be ready tomorrow when I'm ready to leave for work, or you'll go to bed half an hour earlier. Because it's so frustrating always to be that they're slowing one down. They're slowing one down into children's time, which is kind of awful. It's just awful. But
maybe that's a good way to think about it.
But then in meditation, often when, and I know you know this, when in those moments when you're simply with your breathing, it's timeless. 5 minutes will go by, 10 minutes will go by, and sometimes you sit for a half an hour, 45 minutes, or an hour, and you can be gone, and then that's timeless. But there's also just, you're so here that it's time ceases to exist in a way. So I think my experience is it's really just a matter of remembering again and again, like Thich Nhat Hanh suggested.
Yeah.
And it's deep. It's deep in us. I mean, I was hurrying yesterday. There is a little rush. It's the season's getting late. I got to get the garden in. But there was no need to be holding my breath and hurrying. It's just a habit.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll be a better person, or mom or dad will applaud me or something if I'm done. And it's funny. How many thousands of projects have you done in your life? And you think, when I get this done, and then there's something next. Always.
Right. Well, part of it is, I think, when you get it done, you feel like you're going to feel complete in some way.
Right.
There's the next thing. Mm-hmm. So, but I really do like the notion of sort of children's time, and maybe I'll kind of use that as well as bringing awareness to.
I just remembered there's an incredible movie, if you can ever get it. It's called A Matter of, I think it's A Matter of Time. Ooh, I'm forgetting. It's a story of Carl Jung's life. It's his autobiography in a movie, basically. And I walked out of the theater and I was changed for a couple of weeks. A Matter of Heart. A Matter of Heart. And but there's a I worked in Switzerland for 2 years, and I worked with the mountain men of Switzerland. I was a ski patrolman, and the farmers were my colleagues. And there's a brief interview with one of these farmers, and he says this: Carl Jung went through a period. His detractors call it his psychotic period. He calls it his encounter with the unconscious. And he sat. They had a little beach outside his home, his house in Bollingen on the Zürichsee. Touches me. I think I aspire to this. He sat there for weeks on the beach, just playing in the rocks, and this Swiss-German farmer mocked him and said, "Yeah, the great, famous, world-famous psychiatrist Carl Jung sat on the beach and played like a child for days." Now that's interesting to me.
Yeah, that is.
And from that came Jungian psychology. Yeah. So child time, I think we touched on something good there.
Did you? Thank you so much.
Maybe it's okay to play. Imagine that.
Maybe so.
But hurry, I've got to get to work. How long's your sabbatical?
Well, it's kind of as long as, the money holds out, I guess.
Good.
It's like, a friend called it my quit-batical, so
Good.
It's like that.
Well, I hope you really take the time to play.
Thank you. Wow.
Inspiring
Like
for me too.
challenge.
Yeah, isn't it weird? Well, yeah.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, my dear.
Hi, Robert.
I hear a voice.
Hi, it's Lorraine.
Hello, Lorraine.
Hello. I just in the concept of time, I used to travel from like 21 to 35, just around the United States, and time was irrelevant. I just lived in the moment.
Wow.
And it was really great. And then I got married, and my husband, he works, like a 9-to-5 job, and so my life ended up being time driven, just being with someone time driven, and it really just he used to get really angry when I'd say, "What day is it?" or he'd get the day wrong or something like that. And now he's off of work for like 2 months for this coronavirus.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that now we can try and experiment again and get back to life of no time, not having any schedule. So it's kind of fun to do that again.
Great. How's he doing? He might. Is he adapting to no time?
He's loving it.
Oh,
yeah,
good.
It's a different experience, but he likes it.
Yay.
Yeah.
That's why we shouldn't have unemployment, because it encourages people not to work.
True.
That did have brackets around it, folks. Thank you, Lorraine. This so opens my heart, being in these connections that we have here.
Robert.
Hello.
Hi.
It's Stephanie.
Hello.
Hi.
I wanted to, this is kind of to you and to Jim a little bit, and to all the women. ADHD, I think a lot of women, it was more saw as like a men's thing, but a lot of women do have ADHD, and it is something with my practice that I have had to just move through and be accepting of, and really learn how it does affect my brain, because I'm always, my brain naturally is searching out danger. And when there's no danger, and I'm just trying to be like, it takes a Herculean effort. And to not take that on as self has been a real journey for me, because I have always identified with my ADHD as like that I am an anxious, frantic person. That's who I am. And so it's been a real practice to like, that's not self. This is, so I just wanted to talk to that. And like, a lot of women don't even know they maybe even have symptoms, or so I wanted to say that.
So there's constant arousal looking for the threat.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is mammalian and conditioned trauma, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, and also the brain of an ADHD person doesn't have as much, I want to say it's gray or white matter. So it comes more naturally to organize thought when you have that. And when you don't, you have to learn how to organize thought. And so you're kind of in a different world as people that have a more neurotypical brain. But if you don't know you have it, then you think you're less than, because it's harder for you to organize thought. So I just, yeah. Yeah.
You know, I once saw a really fine documentary on ADHD, and they created this is what the world might look like with ADHD, and it was such an overwhelming world.
Yes, it's overstimulating.
It was like, yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to speak to that, because sometimes people will take on more struggle than is they should. Yeah.
Be sure to check out the chat, because Diana just put, that's me.
Yeah, I grew up in a chaotic environment too. Yeah. 4 people with ADHD in a house. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Well.
Yeah. Just love. Yeah.
So we do have personality and character issues that we tend to identify with very closely. And I identified with depression for the longest time. And it's so hard. I guess I was trying to get to that this morning, that mindfulness is way deeper than these patterns. And so the patterns of our personality, of our character, are they're manifesting, but with practice we can get some space from them. But it's hard, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Being a human is so damn hard.
Morning, Robert. It's Michael.
Michael, hello.
I wanted just to say one quick thing about what Stephanie was talking about. I have a son who's very ADHD and was, especially when he was younger, and his counselor at the time once described it to his mother and I as, and I'm going to try not to blasphemize the way it was described to me, but as having the calculations and the thoughts and the ideas and the concepts at such a quick rate that it outpaced the ability to get them out. And that kind of resulted in that disorganization, I think, that Stephanie was talking about. And once she described it, the counselor described it that way to us, it was just so obvious. It was so obvious to us seeing him think at a faster pace than he could get it out and organize it. And it was a real frustration for him, but it really gave us a little bit of empathy towards what he might be going through. So I just kind of wanted to mention that. And then I also wanted to talk about something that Tim, I think, had mentioned over the weekend, which was traffic. We were driving up from down in the Mackenzie River Valley yesterday on I-5, and it was amazing to notice how much more traffic there is out there the last few days than there has been the last 6 weeks. And along with that came all the aggressive driving, all of the hurried driving. And it kind of, my first reaction was, I had hoped we were done with some of this, and I really started to miss what we've been able to experience the last few weeks of just that calm and emptiness. So just I'd throw that out, because I doubt I'm the only one who's feeling that way. Thanks.
Hi, Robert. This is Gail. And I just wanted to. I'm listening to this stuff about attention deficit disorder, and I live in a town. I've been out here for 30 years now, came to Portland. And when I moved out here, I got to know the farming community. And the majority of these people are very fit. They don't work out. They work on the farm at a slow, methodical pace. And so they end up with these very fit bodies and calm minds. And so anyway, I just thought I'd mention that because it sort of came up for me while you were talking. And I always sort of thought about these people because I'm not a farmer, and their way of life is challenging, but they seem to have met it with a larger presence in time, and or whatever, I don't know how to call it. The other thing is I don't know, I must have been listening to the public radio or something, and somebody was talking about how some expert was talking about how switching activity creates a little dopamine shoot in your brain due to the novelty of switching the activity. And I could really relate to that. And it's sort of, and in some ways it can be addicting, so getting in a hurry like Energizer Rabbit can actually feel good for a while, but then that ends. And I'm really not a brain scientist, so I couldn't say anything more about it. But anyway, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
This is Tim. I grew up on a farm when I was a little kid, lived on a farm, and I was just thinking about the way we worked on the farm. I was a little kid, I followed my daddy around and tried to do what he was doing, and be a kid, learn. And the way it worked is you got up in the morning while it was still dark and went out, and as the sun was coming up and as it was becoming light enough to see, you were working, and you worked all day until it was too dark to work again, and you did that every day. And so on the one hand, that seemed like a huge amount of work. But the thing about it was there was no rushing. There was no hurrying. It was deliberate. There was no loafing. There was no goofing around, but you could stop and look. You could stop and look. Oh, that's really pretty, the way that, whatever, look, something in nature, some interesting thing. You could stop and look at it. You didn't stop and look at it for very long. You had a lot of work to do, and the amount of work was endless. You could never do it all. But there was no rushing around. There was no hurrying out. They didn't have to get to the pea field by 6:14, or else you were late. You got to the pea field when you got to the pea field, but you didn't. So it was different than city life, coming into town and having my parents transition from being farmers to being town people who had a boss and a job and got up and rushed out to work in the morning. Was really weird. It was a real impoverishment, even to as a little kid. I said, "Oh, this ain't near as good as it was." But we would move at a steady pace, 365 days a year, anytime it wasn't too dark to work. But it was a different way to live it.
Thanks, Tim. Well, I notice it's a little after 8 already. Amazing how that happens. Anybody sitting with something that it would be important to share? Important for you, or perhaps important for the group?
I have a question. This is Lauren.
Hi, Lauren.
Billy and I are kind of musing on this because we have the good fortune of caring for our 2-3-year-old grandchildren 2 days a week, and this issue of time and playing and I mean, definitely they are on their own wavelength as far as time goes, and the idea of inculcating people from a very young age with you got to get on task and hurry, and as grandparents we have I feel like we have like a second go around here from raising children. Now we're doing this again, and I guess ever since you were talking about, well, couldn't we just have sort of a 3-year-old approach and play all day, which is basically what they do. I mean, they just strip their clothes off, and if left to their own devices, basically they would just be feral and running about. And my question is really like, from a practical point of view, how do you maintain like a sense of it's okay to not be in a rush, but actually we need to put some clothes on because we're going to go to the park now, or we're going to go have something to eat, or you need to get in the car to go back with your mom and dad. It's just like, if you have any thoughts on how we can kind of keep our mindfulness in honoring their playfulness, but also kind of get from A to B when we need to.
I think you're already doing it. I bet you are. And it's frustrating, and they slow us down, and it feels good sometimes and frustrating at other times, and there's no way to do it perfectly. However, the one piece that I think we can always resort to is being mindful in the doing of it. And if I'm impatient, he's taken off his clothes again, and there's my irritation. I can own the irritation, and I can not react out of irritation, but I can be loving. But it's feral is the right word. We are taming wild beasts. I mean, there's a term, what is it? Talionic rage, as I recall. It's one sometimes encounters with people who have early childhood injuries. There's a kind of rage that they lose control of, and they're just lost. And my 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds, I'm glad they were small, because they would have killed me if they could. When they were thwarted and they got really angry, there's no more rage than that on the planet. It's just unbridled. There's no ego to dampen it down or take responsibility, and those are the times when you just hold them, or sit. I remember a wonderful image. My son Luke had a tantrum in a grocery store, and he just completely, he was, I don't know, little, 3. He lost it, and he started pulling cans out of a display, and this huge display of cans crashed onto the floor. And I sat down beside him and very calmly said, well, as soon as you're finished, we'll be putting these cans back up, but until then, I'll just protect you so you don't hurt yourself. But you're really lost in rage right now. And people came and looked and so on, but he was gone. So we are taming wild creatures. We're teaching them about love and compassion and boundaries, and it's such a job. So I don't know if that's any help, but my guess is you're doing it just great, and you could be more mindful of yourself in the doing of it, and be merciful with you.
Thank you. I think that's helpful.
Yeah.
You have them all day?
2 days.
2 days a week, all day. Wow.
All day and all night. Yeah, and
Huh.
then most weekends, if our parents let us have them, yeah, it's a privilege.
That's really
And
cool.
it's super cool. And a lot of what makes it cool is just being so immersed in play
Yeah.
and so immersed in the moment.
Yep.
And also so immersed in love. It's all about love all the time. And
Oh, I'm
just-
getting all teary and little. I haven't seen my grandkids in 3, 4, or 5 weeks.
I know it's hard for so many people that way.
Yeah.
And we just are very fortunate. Thank you.
Well, I think we should end. Where are we at? It's 10 after already. So I'm going to go back to the group view. Stephanie, my dear, you want to get the boys?
My boys are actually with the grandparents.
Oh, you have a day off. Fantastic.
I have 1 week off. The grandparents begged for them, so
Oh, good for you.
yeah, they begged, and we've been doing quarantine very well. So they get them for a week. I am really enjoying this time.
Oh, that's very nice.
I actually get to meditate with you in the morning.
That's cool.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so let's do our little song. And unmute everybody. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Goodbye, dear friends. Have a merciful, loving, mindful day. I'll look forward to greeting you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's not it. Goodbye, Jilly. How nice to see all your faces day after day. It's very special, isn't it? Okay, signing off. Let's not hurry today. Goodbye, dear friends.